well-deserved victory for Groves. His first win of the season, by the way. I was surprised to hear that. He hasn't won any race yet. Yeah,
I was really surprised to hear that.
Yeah,
maybe I wouldn't have picked him if I knew that.
But he wins a lot of Grand Tour stages. I think this is his 8th Grand Tour stage in his career.
I think it's his 8th, in his career, but like all since 2022, I believe, which is crazy. That means since 2022, just like to pick a time, I think Pogačar has 17 Grand Tour stage wins. Second place is Mads Pedersen and Philipsen with 9, Jasper Philipsen, and then Kaden Groves is third or fourth, however you want to say that, with 8. So that's a good company he's in.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Everybody, welcome back to the Move Plus Giro d'Italia edition. Johan Bruyneel is here with myself, Spencer Martin. We are breaking down stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia, which just finished in Napoli, won by Kaden Groves on a crash-marred, neutralized stage, which feels like we've been seeing more and more of at the Giro. And then we will predict tomorrow's stage 7. Just a quick recap of the stage in case you missed it. It was going along kind of as normal. Mads Pedersen and Kaden Groves were fighting it out for intermediate sprint points. There was a breakaway up the road, 3-rider breakaway. Lorenzo Fortunato picking up KOM points. 71K to go. A massive crash occurs. Primož Roglič is near the front. His teammate Jai Hindley goes down. I assume he just touched his brakes, maybe touched wheels. The roads were very slippery, very wet. He goes down. The problem is everyone behind him then touches their brakes, and almost everyone crashes behind him. It was an incredibly bad and wide-ranging crash. They eventually neutralize the race, stop everybody, restart it with no time gaps for the GC and no points on offer. So they're just contesting the stage finish. That essentially means there's just a small peloton of sprinters in the front while everyone else sits back, including Mads Pedersen, who crashed himself, but didn't have to worry about losing the race lead or losing sprint points. The breakaway got caught a little bit later, led by Taco van der Hoorn on maybe the skinniest handlebars I've ever seen in a professional bike race. The protesters run in front of them, kind of slow them down. I think they would have been caught anyway, but they're caught with just under 3K to go. Alpecin leads it into the final kilometer. Wout van Aert shoots off the front. I kind of thought Olaf Koy was going to follow him and then sprint from there, but he didn't. Wout van Aert runs out of gas. Kaden Groves just goes to the other side of the road. Like, it looked ridiculous, like uncontested almost, and then starts sprinting. And before everyone realizes what's going on, they're too late. Olaf Koy probably could have sprinted out of that group, but he was pinned against the barriers by Matteo Moschetti on Q36.5, who was relegated, but the damage was done. Groves won. Milan Freton finished second. So my pick from yesterday and my underdog, or my wild card, go 1-2. Paul Magnier third, Max Kanner fourth, Giovanni Lenardi fifth from Polti Visit Malta. You love to see these smaller teams finish in the top 5. But Johan, there's like 2 tracks of the day. There's the win, and then there's everything else. So like, what are you thinking coming away from this day? And a lot of both GC contenders and key domestiques crashed and are hurt, but finished.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Spencer, congrats with your 2 picks from yesterday, Kaden Groves and Milan Fretin. So you got 1 and 2. So we did really well, or you did really well. I didn't get any.
Well, your 2 guys also had a major impact on the stage because your wild card blocked in your favorite.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
Yeah, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah. But yeah, your typical stage in the Giro, longer stage, 225 kilometers, right? We had Visma controlling it. And then until that crash with 70K to go, we saw Adam Yates on the floor. We don't know if he's hurt. Carapaz hit the deck. Derek G, and of course Jai Hindley. I think that's the main fact of the day, that Jai Hindley is out of the race with a concussion. I read an interview of Pachi Villa, one of the DSs of Red Bull-Bora, after the stage, and he said that he was slightly dizzy. So he feels like it's not going to be a big impact for the rest of the season. Still to be seen. Concussions can be tricky, but anyway, it looked straight away. I mean, when you saw Jai Hindley sitting there, you could straight away see, okay, this guy's not getting back on his bike. Big blow for Red Bull and for Primož Roglič, because this was his main lieutenant, right? Ex-winner. of this race, second in the Giro already in the past also, and at the full service of Primoz Roglic. He said it himself. So this is, they will have to rethink a little bit their strategy now. Losing an important guy like this in week one is difficult for a team like Red Bull, who has the big favorite, the number one favorite. Some say the only favorite. And so, yeah, I mean, on top of that, if it's your second best climber, that's mentally, that's hard, really hard. And from tomorrow on already, they will miss him. Because until now, I've only seen Jai Hindley and Pellizzari able to stay with Primoz whenever the road went uphill. All the others, I haven't seen them. Dani Martinez will need to step up now to the plate to fill in that role of Jai Hindley. So big pressure on his shoulders. And yeah, other than that, Spencer, we can debate about the neutralization of the stage. Obviously, it's we're not there. We're sitting behind our screens. We don't feel what's going on. I've seen some riders in interviews saying that it was like an ice skating track. Some DSs have said that, when they stepped out of the car at the moment of the crash, it was even slippery with shoes on. So not on tires, but with rubber soles and shoes. That part of Italy can be like this. There's a lot of grease on the roads. It doesn't rain often. And when it rains, it tends to be really slippery. So we could clearly see, this one guy, I actually think it was Jai Hindley who went down first.
That's what I think, yeah.
And so, then it was a domino effect and lots of people went down. The question is, okay, was the neutralization a good thing? I'm a bit on the fence. If they neutralize the stage, then for GC, then you could say, well, then why have a race for the stage win? Because it still involves that riders are going to take risks. Of course, then it's up to the riders who really want to take the risk, and you eliminate a bunch of riders who will take it easy because they know that they don't have to take unnecessary risks to not lose time for GC. So I can understand the position of the organization also. They have sponsors, they have a podium. They need to, but anyway, sponsors would understand, if it's for the safety of the riders. And then on the other hand, you could say, well, was it really necessary to neutralize it? You could have, if the time is neutralized for GC, then, or if the stage happens, then you could have time for GC also. It's the other way around, right? So I don't really know what to think. I've seen an interview, for example, of Giuseppe Saroni, double Giro winner, of course, different times, long time ago. He won the Giro in late 70s and beginning of the 80s, and he was very critical about the decision that was being made. He said, why is it always that in the Giro there's at least one or more stages being neutralized? It's also the riders need to make sure that they foresee certain situations. So I think in the end, the decision was made. It looked like most of the peloton, the majority of the peloton was happy with that situation. You can't compare, of course, what happened 40 years ago or 50 years ago to now. But yeah, I mean, in the end, lots of riders were on the floor. I think the fact that it was neutralized in first instance to make sure that everybody could come back. You can oversee the situation. You can take stock of, okay, what's happened, who's out, who's still in, who's hurt. And then you keep going again. So, yeah, the final didn't look extremely dangerous to me. Also because it was drying up quite a bit. It's to be seen, if the whole peloton would have gone through those last kilometers, a few corners on cobblestones who were kind of dry, but not completely dry, that could have been another recipe for disaster. So I think in the end, the decision that was made was right. And yeah, Then from all the sprinters who were still there, Kaden Groves had the best lead out with his Alpecin team, and he won. He's one of the fastest riders, one of the pure sprinters. Well-deserved victory for Groves. His first win of the season, by the way. I was surprised to hear that. He hasn't won any race yet. Yeah,
I was really surprised to hear that.
Yeah,
maybe I wouldn't have picked him if I knew that.
But he wins a lot of Grand Tour stages. I think this is his 8th Grand Tour stage in his career.
I think it's his 8th, in his career, but like all since 2022, I believe, which is crazy. That means since 2022, just like to pick a time, I think Pogacar has 17 Grand Tour stage wins. Second place is Mads Pedersen and Philipsen with 9, Jasper Philipsen, and then Kaden Groves is third or fourth, however you want to say that, with 8. So that's a good company he's in.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And then Milan Fretin, your wild card from yesterday, second place. Great for Cofidis. Although I'm not sure, Spencer, I haven't checked, but what happens with the UCI points? So there's no points for Ciclamino jersey, right? Oh,
man, that is a good question.
In this case here, if the stage happens for the win, what happens with the points? Because this is another fight that's going on, right? So Cofidis now, I mean, if he's second, that's how many points is that? Like, I know that 180 points for the win, but
they have been like tallied, so they're on the results as counting, but. This is like starting to underline the complications of all of this. Like technically, by the letter of the law, you have to count the UCI points because the stage happened and finished and has a winner. If it was neutralized entirely, then they wouldn't count. But
so it's 108, 130 points for Cofidis, but Astana gets 80. And then nobody here from Picnic. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, and yesterday they were like, I don't know why they were 1-2 with 500 meters to go. And then they finished out of the points, but Picnic needs to get better at sprinting for like 10th place. Like that's where we are, guys. We need to salvage every point.
So maybe
possible.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if these UCI points are official or not. It's on Pro Cycling Stats, but I don't know what the UCI will do with this. Need to check the official race communication. I don't know.
What were your thoughts on kind of an interesting sprint? First of all, Alpecin, their first rider goes through a corner really fast. Second rider in line loses the wheel. Do you think, did they sit up? It's hard because you can't really sit up because you have to keep Groves at the front. So you can't just
they obviously, what I saw, I think it was Fabio van den Bossche who went through that corner, got a gap, and then you have the second guy kind of that, okay, what do I need to do now? Do I go to the wheel or do I let it go? He didn't close the gap, and that actually prompted Wout van Aert to accelerate. He accelerated a bit too fast because Olaf Kooi was not in the wheel. And Wout van Aert himself, in his interview after the race, said that he made a mistake by going too early. He thought the finish was closer. It was definitely a lead out and not an attack for himself. But then you get into a situation that all of a sudden you get a gap, you look back, and then you say, okay, what do I do now? What do I try? Do I try to make it to the finish? Because maybe there's a slight hesitation and you can make it. Ultimately it was not to be, but and also Olaf Kooi lost his lead out man. He was not in the wheel, and on top of that, then he got boxed in by Matteo Moschetti, and he couldn't sprint. I think, the move from Moschetti was a little bit on the limit. And especially now, the way they look at sprints, you could see that, okay, this is going to be a yellow card. Did he get a yellow card in the end? Or he just got relegated?
He must have gotten a yellow. Yeah, he got a yellow card.
Okay.
That's like pretty obvious yellow card, because you could feel him, and he was like moving over to not let him through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we couldn't see the speed of Olaf Koy because he didn't get the sprint finally. But listen, Groves won. I mean, deserved victory for him.
Well, Van Aert, when he's out there too, I call it like a reverse lead out, because if Van Aert's off the front, everyone else has to chase him, which then provides kind of a lead out for Olaf Koy back in the group. Should Koy have just followed him though? Because if he sprints from Van Aert pulls off with about 200 meters to go, could he have not just sprinted from there?
Yeah, well, it's these moments. It's a moment of hesitation. It's so fast. You need to react. I mean, every single sprint we see, there's always, there's one team that gets it right, and then the others, something goes wrong. There's so many factors, and then this was even okay. It's a bunch sprint, but it's not a real bunch sprint because some guys decided to, like Pedersen decided because of the crash that he was not going to be part of it. Then for some reason, Picnic Post NL, I'm surprised they were not up there with Van Nuden because maybe he crashed also. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's easier to organize, right? If like Alpecin, they had I think they had 4 or 5 riders still there. So they did best. And of course, it would be interesting to see, what happens when the moment it's decided and communicated over race radio with 58 kilometers to go. Okay. The race starts again, and there's no time for GC. Then what are the instructions from the cars? I think it's logical that GC riders and teams with GC riders get the instruction. Okay, we don't risk anything. Tomorrow's a hard stage. Let's, the last 50K or the last 40K, let's save it. Yeah, let's not push it too hard. But anybody who has a sprinter, and especially in the case of Picnic Post NL, because they need the points, this was a great opportunity to get another 100 points if the points count. I repeat, I'm not sure about this now. So I would be curious to see the instruction from the team cars. It was clear that Alpecin got the instructions. Okay, guys, no whining. We get our shit together and we go for it for the stage win. This is a great opportunity, and they got it.
Yeah, they definitely got their shit together. They looked impressive, and we should say they lost a guy, Yuri Holman.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to show that picture, but that was bad.
Don't put it in, Gabriel. It's not safe for work. But he obviously, like, terrible that he's out of the race. But I was impressed at how strong they were with a man down. Like they were really strong in that finale. Yeah,
for sure.
Why are they? Have you noticed this, Johan, at the intermediate sprints? So the breakaway comes through for a second. Jensen Plowright from Alpecin to Koenig is always sprinting against Mads Pedersen for points, but Kaden Groves is like 13th in the
points. That's strange. I
don't understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to doubt a Roothoofs. I mean, I'm sure the Roothoofs have an idea about what
but they're not there. They're not there. They're not at the race.
Clearly that wouldn't happen if they were there. But just a few questions. I mean, we should say, so I didn't really respond to what you said about the neutralization. It kind of doesn't make any sense what happened, because if it's not safe enough for the GC riders, it's not safe enough for the sprinters. Having said that, I kind of like it because it's just it seems like it kept the peloton happy, which is important. If you're Maraveni, you want to keep the riders happy. Like, you have an ecosystem here that you can't let go sideways. And it made it safer because there's fewer people contesting. Like, if Primoz Roglic is up there and Juan Ayuso trying to stay at the front and not lose time, and in Napoli, maybe there's a big crash. So it makes it cleaner at the finish. I thought it was a decent compromise. Let's say they call the stage off or like neutralize the stage. What would like technically be the reason for that? Slippery roads? Is that?
Yeah.
Then that kind of opens up a Pandora's box that is a little dangerous.
This is already on the limit, Spencer. Okay, there's been a crash. Okay, that's sure. A lot of riders on the ground. You can say, okay, we temporarily neutralize it until we take stock and we know that everybody's fine. That's one thing with, still debatable because crashes are part of the races.
Well, I guess the logical, justification would be you have to get ambulances to people. So you probably need to neutralize it. If there's not enough ambulances to stay with the front of the race, you have to neutralize it, I guess would be the reason.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's always a concern. I don't know how many ambulances there are. There's definitely more than 3. But there were some guys, like Jai Hindley was in the ambulance. Then this Alpecin, the Koenig guy was in the ambulance for sure. I don't know if nobody else abandoned, no?
Oh man. I don't think so. I was just looking at this. I saw Geoffrey Bouchard abandoned, but I don't know when. Dion Smith, I don't know if that was before today.
Yeah, but he got attacked by a goat a few stages ago.
That was crazy, man. I can't believe he didn't go down. That goat was going for him. It was like a hockey hit or something. I think he used to be on Georgia's team, Hincapie, I think.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Dion back in the day. But yeah, you're right. It's already kind of on the limit. I mean, I wasn't there, right? Maybe if we were in the race, would be like, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to race in this.
Yeah, I think, one of the good things I also saw today in the Giro, I didn't realize, but so there are guys implicated there in the organization who are recently retired. One of them is Marco Velo, who was in the director car, I guess. And then Nibali is also part of the organization. I saw him walking around there, talking with riders. So obviously they're pretty good soundboards, from both sides. To listen to the riders, they can give their opinion themselves, and then to relate it to the organizers, or to speak in name of the organizers with some kind of view of a recently retired professional bike rider. I think it's good to have these guys in there.
And they have to. People might be saying, why don't they just call the race off? Well, it's like logistically, they do have to get to the buses. So you've got to get to your buses, which are in Napoli. And the city has presumably paid quite a bit of money to have the race go there. So I think that's why the organization is always hesitant to, like, remember last year, what was that? The ski resort? What's that famous ski resort? I'd see, this is why they should have done the stage, because I don't even remember the name of it, but they couldn't start the stage there, and I'm sure that town.
Yeah. Was it was in Livigno, no?
Yeah, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had to have a make good for another year, and it messes up the finances. So they really want these stages to go off as planned, because it's really important for their bottom line. But Jai Hindley's out. That's a problem. Jay Vine, it said he was out. He's not out. Do you know if he crashed during the stage?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen him crash.
We don't know what's going on with Jay Vine. So let's assume UAE has a full team, very strong team. The only problem is they have one domestique, which is Jay Vine. Everyone else is seemingly in the GC.
Well, tomorrow it's going to change, Spencer.
Well, we'll get there. Yeah, that will be interesting to see. But
it's going to change tomorrow. You'll see.
What does Red Bull do without Jai Hindley? Like, how does this change their plans going forward?
Yeah. Well, as I say, they can't be that offensive. Dani Martinez needs to step up.
Well, they're lucky they have Giulio Pellizzari.
Pellizzari, really good. Pellizzari has a big job on his hand. Yeah, he's strong. But listen, Jai Hindley is like a better pedigree rider, right? I mean, has been, he won a Grand Tour. He's been yellow jersey. He won this race, yeah. He's been yellow jersey in the Tour de France. So it's a big loss for them. Big loss.
He's also like a tough guy that doesn't get rattled, like really important person to have in your team. Yeah. And then Pellizzari is 21 years old.
Listen, they don't have many options. Like tomorrow is a great finish for Primoz. He needs to take advantage of it if he can take some time and maybe some bonus seconds. He needs to take advantage of it, and then look. Okay, am I back in the lead? What do we do now? Is it interesting for us to not completely defend it and really, empty our resources and drag ourselves down? Tomorrow, it's the first time uphill. It's an ideal climb for Primoz Roglic. So tomorrow they need to go for it, and then look afterwards what they're going to do with it.
Well, are you done with today? Should we take a break and then talk about tomorrow?
Yeah, there's not much else to say about today. Yeah, I mean, I hope everybody's okay. I mean, one I think one honorable mention for Taco van der Hoorn.
Yes,
he was out for a very, very long time with severe consequences of a concussion. Has been thinking several times of quitting his career, like stop being a bike racer. Finally made it back at the end of last season, and now is in his typical mode again. I can still see him win a stage in the Giro a few years ago in the same way, from a breakaway, and finally they couldn't catch him. Was that 2022 or something, or?
It was 2021.
Oh, wow. Time flies. Time flies.
I know. It's like really weird.
But, he's definitely that kind of breakaway specialist. So to see him up there after such a hard time, that was really nice.
Did he finish second at a Tour de France stage? I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Roubaix one.
Yeah.
He unfortunate that, I mean, that's like ridiculous that you have protesters running out. He really could have got hurt. They got lucky because there was kind of like
they would not have made it, Spencer. They would not have made it, but do
you think it helped or hurt them that they had to stop?
I think I would say initially, I think it helped them.
That's what I was thinking.
Because if it's the full peloton, a part of the teams that are chasing for the breakaway, you have a lot more stress with other teams that want to stay in front. So the peloton would have caught them earlier, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was way less jockeying for position.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break, and then we will talk about Stage 7, who's going to win, what Red Bull has to do, and much more. All right, Johan, Stage 7, tomorrow's stage, first summit finish of this Giro d'Italia. The cliff notes are the stage is 180 kilometers long. Maybe if you're on YouTube, you could see the profile right now. It's the last
168 kilometers long.
Oh no, I misheard you.
Not very long.
Yeah, I mean, that's significant because obviously it sounds ridiculous, but it is kind of short especially for a mountain stage. And there are 4 categorized climbs on the route, packed into 168 kilometers, which is roughly 100 miles. So not super long. The big feature is the final climb. It's 12K long, technically like 5.5%, 6%. But the last 2.5 kilometers are roughly 10% average, which is very steep finish to the stage. There will definitely be attacks, definitely be GC gaps. I'll read off the favorites on Bet. This is Bet 365. We switch books because it's available almost everywhere. If we need to, we'll refer to something else, but it's roughly the same as Unibet. Primoz Roglic plus 275, big favorite. Tom Pidcock plus 800, Giulio Ciccone plus 1600, Lorenzo Fortunato plus 1600, Juan Ayuso plus 1800, Christian Scaroni plus 1800, Pello Bilbao plus 2200, Michael Stewart plus 2200, Isaac Del Toro plus 2,500, Wout Poels plus 2,500, Richard Carapaz plus 2,800, Jay Vine plus 2,800. It goes on and on, but I think the winner will come from someone I just named. The odds are clearly like tilting toward a GC group, but how do you see the stage playing out, Johan, and who's going to win?
Yeah, it's not easy to predict the GC or breakaway. I think it's 50-50. I'm still going to go for the favorite on this kind of stage, Primoz Roglic, plus 325. I think that's good enough to pick him as the winner. This is an ideal climb for him. He does still, even without Jai Hindley, he still has a team, and they're not going to be the only ones, in my opinion, to have interest to keep it together. I have to think that UAE also has an interest to go for the stage win. So Primoz Roglic plus 325 is my favorite to win the stage.
I don't think that's a crazy pick at all. I just can't believe this is a little bit closer than we've seen, but you have one rider who's a massive favorite, and then everyone else is almost wild card pricing. There's like no second favorites really. I do think, yeah, short stage, a lot of climbs, steep final climb, two motivated GC teams. I think this is probably not a breakaway day. It just is not a ton of time actually to build up a big advantage, the advantage that you would need to hold them off on the final climb. I'm going to go GC Group 2. I'm going to go who I think is the second strongest rider in this race. I think we'll find out if that's true or not tomorrow, but Juan Ayuso at plus 1,800. Really good price. I mean, again, I'm bargain bin shopping for the second day in a row, but plus 1,800 for a guy that probably isn't as strong as Primož Roglič, but he has beat Primož Roglič in an uphill finish on the summit finish this year at Catalunya. So it's not a crazy pick. I'm going to go with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And he has a strong team. So, for Ayuso, I think he needs to focus on Primož. It's just to be seen what his teammates will do. If they're going to set the tempo on the last climb, they do have, and especially now with Jai Hindley out, they do have the strongest team now. And if it's all for Ayuso, or if they want to play several cards and maybe play with one of the other riders, with Brandon McNulty or with Del Toro, or even with Adam Yates. So they have plenty of cards to play tomorrow. So, but yeah, I think Ayuso is a good pick. It's difficult to pick somebody from a breakaway, Spencer. I could foresee something like there's riders who are good climbers who get a little bit more freedom in the sense that they're not as supervised as these top favorites like Primož and like Juan Ayuso. And I could see a guy like Michael Sturrer getting away on the first part of the last climb and then keep it on the steep part. If it's 10, 12 kilometers. So the first 9 kilometers are about between 4.5% and 6%. That's ideal terrain to make a move. And basically, you can get away alone or with another climber who maybe not in GC. And keep it on the last steep part. It's not going to be easy, but Michael Sturrer to me seems to be in great condition. We saw his condition in Tour of the Alps, but he was up there. I think yesterday or in one of the sprints, he was in 6th place. So for a climber to be up there, that means he has really good legs. So tomorrow, I think he could potentially be one of the guys who sneaks away on the lower slopes of the last climb and keeps it to the finish. Plus 2,500 on Unibet.
Yes, 2,200 on Bet365. Okay. It would be shocking in one respect because it would make him probably one of the strongest riders in the race. But basically, we were just talking about this before we recorded. He's like gotten so much better just in the last few months that it's not crazy, especially with that, 6th place in the sprint finish. So I think if it is breakaway, the obvious one is Lorenzo Fortunato because he's been off the front so much and you're like, oh, he's going to win. But it's very hard to go. He's going to be in the break tomorrow. It's hard to go for KOM points and the stage. I would go for his teammate Christian Scaroni instead, plus 1,800. They'll both probably be in the breakaway. But it's just so we talk about this all the time. It's so hard to split chasing the sprint at the top of every climb and then winning the sprint for the finish, or even getting away to win at the finish. So I would not go Fortunato. I would go Scaroni if you want a breakaway rider. Yeah,
the only downside on Scaroni, I mean, we don't know what his current form is. He's been amazing in the spring. The first 2 months of the season, he was the best rider of the whole peloton.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. And he had a pretty bad crash in Strade Bianche. Was out for a while, and he's raced again, but he's not back to the level he was in the first few races. So, But still, I think he's a good enough rider, and he's gonna be on some decent form. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in this Giro. So that's a good pick from a breakaway, Spencer. I like that.
And just before we go, one thing I've been thinking about is who's going to be setting the pace on this UAE team.
Tomorrow it's going to change, Spencer. We've only seen Jai Vine, but I think tomorrow we're going to see at least Brandon McNulty also. And Jai Vine, yeah.
They might not need anyone other than Jai Vine.
We don't know. We don't know if he's hurt from the crash, or if he crashed, or if that was just false information. If they made maybe a mistake between Jai Hindley and Jai Vine, they're both Australians. We don't know. That could be, a slip of a tongue, in the communication over the radio or something. We don't know. I haven't seen any physical evidence that Jai Vine was in the crash. Adam Yates was from UAE, that I've seen.
Yeah, no, you're right. Maybe there was a mix-up. Maybe, yeah. I mean, with Jai Vine, assuming Jai Vine's healthy, and then they have a little help from McNulty, that might be all they need tomorrow to control it.
Well, normally a guy like, if it's, listen, Ayuso and Adam Yates are the two leaders. So on that last climb, it should be Jai Vine and McNulty and Del Toro. Del Toro should also set the pace.
I think Del Toro's the wild card in this situation.
Yeah, could be. I mean, he can win. He can win races. He's won Milano Torino on a steep climb. Not the same rivals, but still, he was very strong. I don't know. Carapaz was maybe there also, and I don't remember if Carapaz was in the game. I kind of
vaguely remember that.
Yeah,
maybe he was there.
Okay, yeah. So that's going to be a good finish for Del Toro also. But listen, they have to make choices. They have to make choices, and tomorrow is the day that they will need to make choices and go for those two riders, in my opinion, for Ayuso and Adam Yates.
Well, if Del Toro wins tomorrow, it almost causes more problems for them than it solves, because that is a messy situation.
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's hard to, a stage, a win in a team. It's hard for it to cause problems. Maybe initially you have one of the riders who's not happy, but then I tell you, at the dinner table, usually it's a good atmosphere, no matter who has won from the team.
You know what it would remind me of is, remember our friend Bradley Wiggins, Tour de France that he won, his uphill finish in the Alsace, won by Chris Froome, I believe. I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah, and it's kind of like, oh, we're excited. This is kind of awkward though, because this guy thinks now he's the strongest rider in the race.
Yeah.
All right, Johan. Anything else?
It's a good problem to have.
That's a very good point. I think most teams are just like, wow, I'd love to be able to even contest the stage.
Yeah.
We have multiple
teams
riders.
Are, trying to decide, okay, who can we put our hopes on to win a stage here? And most of the teams don't have one.
Right, most of the teams, especially when you get to the end of the race, they don't even have riders that can get into the breakaway. So having two guys that could maybe win the overall is a pretty good problem to have. All right, Johan. Well, anything else before we take off?
No, I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, we will talk tomorrow about this stage 7. I'm excited to see how it plays out, and then preview stage 8.
Okay. Thanks, Spencer.
All right. Bye.